go over. So I think we can get started. I'm glad that everyone made it, and I'm excited to have everyone join us today. My name is Elaine Spector. I'm a partner at Harrity Harrity and co-chair of Harrity's Diversity Committee. Welcome to the Diversity Dialogue, which is a quarterly webinar hosted by our firm Harrity, where we meet with diversity thought leaders to discuss some of our favorite topics, and our particular favorite topic is diversifying the patent field. So I'm excited to be talking to these three amazing women from law firms that agreed to participate in our think tank to address a problem specifically as it relates to increasing the number of women in patent law. So just so for those of you who are not familiar with our think tank, we plan to have think tanks in all underrepresented areas of the patent bar. This was the first think tank for specifically directed towards women, but we will have them to address racial equity, practitioners with disability, and the LGBT community, because we all face different barriers to enter into the patent profession. So joining us today is Meredith Struby, who is a managing partner at Mueller, Carlyn, and Kerfman. I hope I said that right, Carlyn. Meredith. Okay, good. Next, we have Carlyn Burton, who's a partner at Osha, Bergman, Watanabe, and Burton. And finally, we have Lisa Mueller, who's a partner at Casimir Jones. So welcome, ladies. I'm so excited to have you on the webinar, and especially because it's Women's History Month. We are starting out with a big bang. So Meredith, before we actually get into our discussions, I want to give a little background on the think tank itself. Each law firm was part of a brainstorming team. And so we tried to target different thought leaders in the patent field, including high-level officials from the Patent Office, leaders from LCLD, MCCA, CHIPS, as well as in-house counsel and members of Harrity's own brainstorming team. Yes, we have a brainstorming team where we brainstorm various issues related to our practice and other ideas. We provided materials in advance of the actual brainstorming sessions because we wanted everyone to be prepared to talk about the issues and come up with some solutions about bringing more women into patent law. And each law firm that's participating today agreed to implement an idea that came from their brainstorming group. So before we get into the actual ideas that they came up with, I want to, if Samantha, if you could advance the next slide to go through our particular groups and who was on each brainstorming team. So Meredith, this is your team. And if you give a little background about yourself and your kind of pathway to patent law, your firm, and maybe discuss this, who was in your brainstorming group.
Sure. Thank you for having us and for organizing this. This has been a really fun opportunity, and big thanks to Harrity for pulling us together. This has been great. But I'm a patent attorney. My practice focuses on building domestic and international patent portfolios and providing clearance advice to and opinions to clients. My firm is Mueller, Carlyn, and Kerfman. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We're a mid-sized, full-service IP boutique. And our group, this think tank group, we brainstormed, I think, over like 2 or 3 sessions about how we wanted to outreach to high school age students. We talked about high school, middle school, and settled on high school. And I'll just quickly talk about the program. We wanted to reach out to high school students, get them interested in patent law, underrepresented high school students with a focus on women, get them interested in patent law, and then invite them to come to the firm for a shadow day so they could see what it's like to be like a day in the life of a patent attorney. We were going to set up some, fake cases since they can't see any of our real work, and just let them see what it's like to be at a law firm for a day. And then those that are still interested in the practice, pairing them up with attorneys at the firm to mentor them as they progress through school. And I think part of this later on, we'll talk about more about where those ideas came from, but I'm happy to talk about them now if you want me to.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, you picked high school what was your impetus for picking that age group?
Yeah, so it was wanting to get to the students. One of the challenges that we identified for having more women in the patent practice is that they might not have known about the educational requirements to sit for the patent bar early enough. And so targeting students when they're in middle school and high school to think about their studies in university, being a qualifying major so that they could sit for the patent bar. And so being able to talk to them, getting them interested early on and making sure they pick a major that allows them to sit for the patent bar could be one step to help alleviate the issues. When I was in high school, before I became a patent lawyer, way before, I wanted to be an environmental engineer. And my high school had a shadowing program with different companies in the city. And one of them was an environmental engineering law firm. And I got to shadow with them for a day and loved it. And went to college to be an environmental engineer and then changed my mind when I was a senior and the patent attorney came to talk to us about different careers that engineers could do. And I thought, no, that is actually what I want to do. So that's also a quick story about how I got to be a patent lawyer too. So we like the idea of shadowing, letting kids see what it's like so they know what they're getting into a little bit better. And then I also have coached my children while they were in elementary school for a program called Odyssey of the Mind, which is like a creative problem solving type program. And I noticed that like it's creative, like there's this like skit component to it, there's this science component to it, and art component. It just brings in a lot of different disciplines. And I thought that, you know, if you can get in with the children early, and then the group, you know, we brainstormed about this, getting in with the kids early and allowing them to see themselves as scientists and see themselves as engineers and problem solvers and be able to use their love of writing and communicating in a way that also taps into their love of science and learning. And, you know, really we're just a bunch of curious communicators, right? So how can we help children see themselves early enough is something that would be successful in this profession.
Do you think that eventually you would have to go into that middle school range? Because I think that's where a lot of women become discouraged. They're finding through the data in those middle school ranges.
I do. I think that would be helpful. And maybe doing more about like, I think IPO has that IP patch program where you talk about patents, and it's more on it's scaled back to more what middle schoolers would think is cool. But I have to say, when we talk to the high school students, I did have to like talk to my daughter who's a teenager and get her advice on, you know, nobody wants to hear about a circuit board or a medical device, you know, like, I mean, I think it's neat, but they probably don't. So we talked about like shoes and clothes and
Well, I think that's another thing that we worry about overall with women, attracting more women into science and to engineering and making it more interesting for them and attuned to what their interests are. And there absolutely are ways to do that. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meredith. We'll find out more about your program as we go through our groups. But if we can go to the next slide, and I think Carlyn is next. Can you tell us about your firm and yourself and your group and your basic idea of your program?
Yeah. So my firm, Osha Bergman, Watanabe and Burton, we are an IP mid-sized boutique firm. We're headquartered in Houston, although we have offices in a few places in the US as well as internationally. I'm a chemist by training and co-lead our chemical practice group. Our firm as a whole, you know, we actually primarily hire what we call patent engineers and then train them to become patent agents, and we'll provide law school tuition assistance if they're interested in going to law. So, you know, part of that is recognizing the skills and the talent that are coming out of colleges, universities, industry, et cetera, and being able to leverage and really find, you know, highly qualified individuals and train them on patent law. So, you know, that is, I would say, fundamental to our firm and the way in which we work, you know, from a standpoint of drafting and prosecuting patents, being able to find, what are the odds that I'm going to find the person that has the, PhD in chemistry and a law degree, versus, hiring out of a PhD program or a fellowship postdoc, or we actually, one of our recent hires decided to leave academia. She'd been a chemistry professor for a few years and decided to take a different path. So when we were talking in our group about our own journeys into IP, right? It really was, there was somebody somewhere where we heard, oh, this is a career option, right? We all had the background, the technical STEM backgrounds, but we didn't know about IP as a career because it's not a conventional career that's presented, right, to your scientists, your engineers is, hey, this is what you can do. As a chemist, actually, mostly what you see is this is how you get into academia. Most chemists don't go into academia, but there are some, I would say, really deficiencies there within college, university campuses in helping find career options for individuals. And given the fact that there is probably less information about sometimes getting into even industry, like take that one step further into IP. So really, we focused a lot of our time and discussion on that, and that there is a lack of exposure. There are certainly many people who have qualified degrees, who don't know that this is an option. How can we reach them? We thought about the fact that we could go onto college campuses. Certainly there are people who are employed and in industry working outside of college campuses, but those individuals are probably a little bit more difficult to find. But there is a concentrated group of students who are sitting on campuses getting degrees right now. And so could we find those people and talk to them and say, look, this is a career option. You are on the path to getting the degree that you need to come into this field. This is what this field entails. Here are the different options. It's not just being a patent agent, patent attorney, right? We also have an interest in ensuring that the patent examining corps is diverse, that, I think anything that is touching IP, we will benefit by increasing the number of women that are working in the patent field. So giving that as the exposure, because people are lacking it. They don't even know it's an option. And so that was the goal, is to have a program that allowed for not just us and our firm to go onto campuses, but really is, you can see that one of my group members is with CHIPS, and she expressed that they would be very interested in collaborating to take kind of a package in a box of saying here to all of the CHIP members across the country and say, this is how you can do this. And so that we can really magnify the effect.
And Carlyn, you bring up such a great point, is that this informed step is so important, because there are so many, all of us have different ways of finding out about patent law as a career. And it was for a family friend or a family member, et cetera. It's just randomly how we found out. And how can we get onto college campuses with women who have already decided to pursue those careers, and other ways that we can inform them about how to engage, or about this career in IP as being one that we have all enjoyed and benefited from. So
exactly.
Absolutely awesome. So I want to move on to our third brainstorming team, which was headed by Lisa Mueller. Lisa, can you talk a little bit about yourself, your firm, and the whole process for you?
Sure. And thanks, Elaine and Harrity for putting the think tank together. I think, as you can see from both Meredith and Carlyn, there's some great initiatives that have come out of it. And so I'm a patent attorney. I've practiced for over 25 years in the life science space. And my firm, Casimir Jones, we developed a patent academy not too long ago to help train individuals with life science backgrounds from diverse backgrounds and underrepresented individuals, to give them the skill set that they need to get into patent law, very similar to the program that Harrity has as well. So I had a really great team, like all these teams were really phenomenal in terms of brainstorming for my particular topic, which was something called a Language of Leadership webinar program. So the idea behind this was developing a webinar series where we kind of build on like what Carlyn was talking about, where we would bring in women in patent law, in-house positions, the patent office, law firms, women who have been successful in their patent law careers, and have them come in and talk about their journey to patent law, what attracted them to it, how they felt when they first started out, what excites them about it, you know, the importance of mentors and mentorship, and the opportunities and flexibility that patent law provides. And our thought was we would be targeting college undergrads, so like seniors who are in STEM programs approaching graduation and maybe thinking about what careers they should pursue. And so we thought that by having this kind of leadership webinar program, it would be inspiring to these women to hear these various different viewpoints and perspectives of these women. So everybody gets into patent law a little bit differently. And so give them the opportunity to know that it's just not one straight path. You can become a patent attorney, you can become a patent agent, you can be a technical scientist, then become a patent agent. You know, there's a lot of different routes to success. And it's just a matter of choosing what suits you best. So idea here is a lot of different diverse women providing their perspectives that would hopefully inspire these college seniors to think about and hopefully pursue careers in patent law.
And so Lisa, would it be a matter of trying to focus on maybe Society of Women Engineers, to focus on, you know, recruiting women? I know we'll probably, actually, know what, this is probably a good time to talk about it. Recruiting women into the program from university seems to be a point of contention and
yes,
difficult, a pain point.
Yeah, Society of Women Engineers, the Chemical Engineering Society, and I learned this morning on another call that there's like a postdoc association that might be another area that we could reach out to. I think, you know, working through tech transfer offices, maybe through Autumn would be another possibility. Maybe the USPTO seems to have a lot of reach in a lot of different programs. But yeah, certainly trying to get as many women interested in this particular program is going to be the challenge, and how to get the word out. So would love if anybody, as they're hearing me describe this program, have suggestions, as well as speakers, because I'm a life science guru and I know a lot of women in the life science space, but would love suggestions for women outside of life sciences where I'm not as familiar. So
And so Lisa, how often were you thinking about having these webinars?
So the thought was maybe one a quarter, because I think, again, recruiting people to the program is going to be a challenge. And then the thought was hopefully line these up in advance and kind of have the whole year mapped out. And then we also have like a takeaway, a handout for these women, kind of explaining, if you're interested in patent law, here's what you should think about doing. If you're interested in being a patent agent, here's what you should think about doing. Or if you want to be a technical scientist, and kind of explain all the different pathways, so they have some visual to take with them as a reminder. So I think, you know, once a quarter would be probably a good place to start. And if we get some good traction, then, you know, maybe we could do bi-monthly or something more frequently if there was a need.
That sounds great. Samantha, if you want, we can go back to full screen. That is it for our slides. Okay, awesome. So I want to talk a little more about each of your programs, and Meredith, I'll go back to you because you are targeting high school students. Can you tell me a little bit more about the program, what it would look like, and maybe what you plan to implement in the future?
Sure. So we started off by, we sent a email description of the initial presentation that we wanted to do for the students to pique their interest in patent law. The first description that we sent to the first school, I should say, the first school we tried, it did not work very well. We had some people show up that were interested in IP advice rather than learning about a career in intellectual property. And so we realized we needed to change our messaging and be very clear that we're talking about a career in patent law. And so with the second school and the second description, we sent that to one of the counselors at a local high school, and she distributed that to the students. This high school is a magnet school for science and math, so we did, we wanted to target kids that were more likely to want to be interested in the career path. And she thought 8 kids were going to show up. I think 15 showed up. Most of them paid attention. They asked great questions. We had a presentation where we were going to talk about, the common types of intellectual property, because I don't know if you've ever tried to talk to kids about IP, but they will immediately try to start talking about trademarks. So we wanted to go ahead and let everybody know, no, that's a trademark. No, that's a trademark. And so we could get everybody focused on patents. So we did a quick intro to IP, and then we had on the slide deck, it was fun. We had some slides that had just the claims of some famous toys like Legos and Slinky and Frisbee and Rubik's Cube, and we made them guess what toy was being described by the claim language, and they were all fascinated with the claim language, and they were like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, you got to learn how to write this way. And they were laughing, and they really enjoyed it. They asked great questions. They took the conversation and put it back to some of them were more electronic technology focused, and some of them were focused on designs, and some of them were focused on drugs, like the pharma industry, and they had questions about how patents tied to that. And so we had an interesting discussion. It was and then I didn't even have to bring it up. One of the kids said, how do I become a patent lawyer? And I was like, oh, great. Let's talk about that. And then we talked about patent agents, we talked about patent lawyers, and we talked about needing to look at the list of undergraduate degrees that would allow you to sit for the patent bar, and different career paths, and how me and my fellow presenter had gotten ourselves into this field. My fellow presenter has a PhD in biomedical engineering and had graduated from that high school. So it was really cool for those kids to see an alumnus that had gone on to Georgia Tech and had gone on to grad school, and was an expert in knee surgery. And so it was really neat. And so the kids asked great questions. They stayed late. They were late for the next class. I felt bad, but they had a great time. And then several of them, I think 8 of them, want to come and join us this summer. We'll have a shadow day. And so we're going through the school counselor to coordinate the communications, because grown-ups can't email high school students. It's weird. And so she's handling the communications for us with those kids. So we'll have a day where they come in here over the summer, a full day, and we'll just have a program for them where they can see, patent prosecution, patent litigation, maybe some other areas in IP, get them interested. And then we'll talk with them about this is what has to happen. Let's talk to you about your career path. Let's think about what it's going to take to get you here. This is the time frame. These are opportunities available. Like Carlyn mentioned, a lot of law firms they'll pay for you to go to law school while you're working as a patent agent. Take that path if you want to. So, so the plan is, and then again, we would mentor them afterwards if they're still interested.
That was my next question, Meredith. Is there a good?
Yeah. So then anybody that's interested, we'll pair you up with an attorney or an agent here, and stick with them, quarterly mentoring or whatever it is that is needed to, we don't really know what that looks like yet, but mentor them throughout school and keep them, answer their questions, introduce them to other patent attorneys, help them with their networking. And then the idea is that if this works, we would have a little package that we could go to other law firms, other organizations, and allow them to go out, partner with a school, and reach more kids. And I was just before the program, doing some math, and if we could get even just 5 kids out of this one school interested, right? And then maybe there are 20 other law firms or law departments in town that could each get 5 kids. Like that's 100 more underrepresented kids entering the patent field every year. And that's just like an Atlanta impact, right? Like that's not even like thinking outside of like the region. And I was having a conversation with somebody this morning about how the number of people who have taken the patent bar every year has dropped by almost 50% in the last 10 years. And getting more people, like, so it's getting harder and harder to find, you know, I mean, I know we're all having a struggle sometimes finding people to hire to, and that might be why. And so having more kids and young adults be interested in patent law and taking the patent bar, then, you know, that helps. So.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I love the idea of making a package that is available for other law firms to get involved. And is there, as you're growing this program and now you're implementing it, are there ways that other law firms can help support you, maybe through mentoring, or, I mean, I know you're at a smaller scale.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Future.
That's right. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, through mentoring. Yes, but I mean, you know, I expect we've got the people at the firm are very eager about this program. We had this sort of was also born out of last March for Women's History Month. We had a panel of 5 Black high school students speak to us over Zoom, the whole firm, just about their experience about being young Black women in America and what their hopes and dreams were and what their challenges were. And there wasn't a Q&A. They just shared what they wanted out of life and what they felt to be challenging and how they wish the world would see them and treat them. And it was so incredibly impactful. And after the meeting, a lot of people who maybe had not been as involved in our DEI efforts before mentioned this, I needed, like, this was useful for me. And I would love to see if these young women want to come to the firm and see what it's like to be a lawyer, we would love to have them come. So we initially reached out to the school that set up the panel for us. None of those students were interested in being lawyers, even though I think they would all be great patent lawyers, like just them describing what they want to do. They want to be doctors and other things for the time being. But so we first reached out to that school and that did not, it just didn't pan out as well. It's not that I'll reach back out to them with this better messaging now that I've figured out what the better messaging
They
is.
weren't interested in that.
Yeah. I'm not giving up on them, but we're gonna have to try again with them. And but yeah, so because like people had already expressed an interest in wanting to mentor, we knew that like we had that capacity. But yeah, if other people want to help, thinking about like, you know, what did we do and how could we make it better? How could we make the presentation more interesting? Like maybe how could we get more people to even attend the meeting in the first place, right? That's we don't know what we could have done better because we haven't tried anything and we had a good turnout. And so we feel pretty lucky, but you know, where also may we target? Like we went to a science and math magnet school. Like how could we reach kids that maybe aren't able to attend that school, that might, you know, see themselves as a creative type and have all the skills that they need to be a patent attorney or a patent lawyer or a patent agent.
And what I think is great, and there's a couple of things that come to mind, is one, having that panel last year to get that firm support, because if you don't have the firm support, it's very hard to implement a program like this. It takes a lot of muscle and a lot of time to get these programs working. So that's amazing. But also another idea is, as you all know, ADAPT has a platform that lists all different diversity programs. And Meredith, when yours gets your point, and Lisa and Carlyn, it's a great opportunity to be part of that organization. I think, Lisa, you might already, and to have your programs listed there so people will know about them, how to get involved, how to obtain materials. Mentoring is also available there as well if you need more. So that's and it's also, I think there is also a way for, and I know they had closed the students who want mentors, that opportunity, but they're going to reopen that again to allow for students who specifically want mentors at those younger years. So I think that will be super important. But your
That's
program
great.
sounds amazing.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. But yes, if anybody wants to talk more about what the shadowing day should look like and wants to be a mentor, like absolutely, please reach out. That would be fantastic. Or if you want to take the program and try it out with your firm or do something jointly, that's awesome.
Yeah. So there is a comment here from John Harrity says, maybe the lesson for Meredith is that we didn't make patent law sexy enough, right?
That's right.
It sounds like you did. It sounds like you made some modifications.
Yeah. My daughter, she gave me some good raw feedback. So that was helpful.
Yes. I know my teenagers are very good at giving me the direct.
Yeah. We had to talk about sports. Like it was like, we could talk about medical devices, but we had to use like sports injury things, so it was neat.
And I think those IP patch programs as well have it geared towards interests of the particular age groups as well. So I think that's a good point for sure. But I love the idea of showing a patent claim for something that they would know and having them identify. That's a really fun activity. So.
They love the Lego, and we did a Lego and like the Slinky. They were like, no way. And I feel like high school kids too, they're growing up, but they like to be in touch with their kid selves.
Yeah.
For a second, and then they're like, I'm done with that, but
yeah, we all navigate that
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Carlyn, if you can tell us a little bit about your program.
Yeah. So, right, we're going on to college campuses. The goal is to go on to college campuses, really focusing on women through SWE groups, because that's going to give us a concentration of, women who are in engineering, probably programs. Certainly on a campus, there are going to be others, but I think that having a SWE point of contact, for us seemed like the easiest kind of way in. The difficulty that we faced is how to get a college student to reply to an email that, whether or not they think the email is, a scam. I mean, I certainly get a lot of scam emails. I'm going to guess that they do too. We did see that there's at least one college group that had like kind of a corporate sponsorship program if you wanted to come on and speak to them. The problem is that if we think about how do we, replicate this, not just with us, but also, right, being able to go out there and widely, that probably, spending several $1,000s to talk to a group of college students probably does not make sense. So while not getting, very far with sending some emails, we hosted in collaboration with the Texas Regional Office of the PTO. The SWE annual meeting was in Houston this fall. And so I organized a happy hour in collaboration with Hope and CHIPS, the State Bar, HIPLA, to bring we had not just women who were in SWE groups in Houston, but, across the country, and held a happy hour where they could get some food and some drinks and talk to PTO officials about what it's like to go to work for the patent office. A variety of women engineers, both patent agents and patent attorneys, came to hear and about what it is like to work in IP. And, all of these women are saying, this is amazing. I never knew this was an option, right? Well, we all hear. The great thing also was that did finally get me a connection and a specific person, at least on one of our college campuses in town, for who I should reach out and contact. I still didn't get replies. So I went and found an adult who I know that is in the administration of that college, and copied her on the email, just to give some legitimacy to me and to say, feel free to reach out and talk to this person, and she replied back and said, you really need to take her up on this offer. This is an amazing offer. So luckily that's now scheduled in a few weeks. It took months to get anywhere. I had similar kind of difficulties getting onto another campus, although I learned recently as we were planning for this webinar that may be in fact because Another local IP attorney has something planned, and she had spent and presented to the SWE group at that college before. And so they probably are thinking, and not just don't want to be rude and say, sorry, we don't want you, we already have this, but that's great. I mean, the goal is for them to, and for anybody to be able to go onto campuses. So I've pivoted, I've expanded my reach a little bit more to just, I want to get through the kinks before we roll this out and make this really available. So I have another kind of contact out, it would involve me doing a little bit of driving, but not terrible amount. And then also, I mean, we have embraced remote, a remote workforce in the pandemic. And so I have people all over the country. So before we take it to like that last step of the general population, I have a group of people within the firm who are interested in doing the same so that we can work through some of those kinks and figure out how to get college students to reply.
And it's so funny, Carlyn. I think that should be a brainstorming topic in and of itself.
Yes.
Recruiting participants, because it's hard to get in the door to college campuses unless you have a contact, unless you're an alumni. And how do we provide the resources to people that how do you get in the door with a SWE organization for a university? And for me, I know we talked about this last week, was I give a lecture at Hopkins. I used to work there. So I give a lecture on IP law, and I talked about, you don't need to go to law school to enter this field. And I had maybe 10 students come up to me, and I met a few women who were interested. And I said, hey, are you part of Society of Women Engineers? Yes, I am. I'm like, oh, can you hook me up with your leader? And she did. And now I'm presenting in April. And it's finding that inner way, but we have to have a more consistent way if we want to leverage it to other law firms to say, here's kind of the tried and true way of contacting that. So I'm happy to brainstorm that with you as well, because I know we have different ways of trying to reach for our programs, undergraduates within those category A degrees.
And kind of, we also did another, went through a career services, participated in some expo, had some people. So that's a very easy, clear way, but that doesn't give you the same one. It's general. It's not necessarily focused on women. It also is a little bit more difficult, I think, when it's a part of kind of a career fair expo that, we need to do the informing first. We can have that inform as part of the conversations, but it doesn't allow for really that, presentation and going through and explaining the different careers. So I think that, yes, we do need to. I did reach out to someone that I know well who is on a college campus, kind of in an industry relations type role, but the person's on the campus, and they, gave me some points. One, not having the right, internal university email alias, is strike one against you as you're emailing in. Two, the person, his comment was they're college students, unless it's, 24, they're looking 24 hours out. His suggestion was to go through dean's offices. But that then also starts to seem,
I know, it's hard.
It's hard to then give somebody a program in a box, tied up with, yes, contact the dean's office.
I mean, it's obviously, we all learn from experience. It's better to have a relationship and to enter the.
Absolutely.
That's an easy way to do it, rather than a cold email saying, hey,
exactly.
Topic, but it doesn't say that it's not possible. But one interesting thing, Carlyn, is that when you actually go and give this presentation, what will be the follow-up? Is it, you have opportunities at your firm? Is it, hey, come consider and apply at our firm, we hire at that level?
Yeah, no, we do. I think also kind of long-term, in we had like the initial think tank conversation, we had kind of a follow-up. In that follow-up, that was part of, the thought process. We also want to build more of like a community where people can then also see opportunities, right? That, you could post if you're having a program, individuals could see, they could ask questions, not just they heard about this once and they're walking away.
Yeah, I think that's the important part of keeping them.
And like, I think it would be great to, like, obviously Lisa, who you're probably going to talk to in a second, is talking to, students in colleges, right? That we could work together to form that rather than having competing, we need to all work, together.
That's exactly what I was going to say too, because I reached out to some organizations that I was taking notes here saying, Carlyn, they probably should link you up with them too, because I think it would help with your program.
And Carlyn and Lisa, you both can join my outreach subcommittee at ITO, because this is what we do on our day-to-day basis. I'd love to have you. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Con. Lisa, I know that we haven't gotten to you in your program. We talked a little bit about it. If you want to give a little more.
Yeah, and I think I share some of the same kind of struggles that Carlyn has. So I'm going to kind of go into them and like where I've reached out, and maybe people have some other suggestions, for part of this program, before we roll it out, before I ask these women to speak hold these webinars, I want to make sure that I have a good size audience. I don't want to have just, 5 or 10 people. So trying to find these students, again, like the struggles Carlyn's had. So, some of the places that I have on my list, Society of Women Engineers, the National Postdoctoral Association, American Chemical Society. 2 that I've reached out to so far is ASIS, the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. And that's one, Carlyn, that might be helpful for you. That I kind of started in by offering to judge a science fair. Their 6 through K science fair that'll be on the campus of Oklahoma State in April. And they're very interested in programs like these and trying to increase awareness on other types of jobs. And so I hooked them up actually with the folks from ADAPT, and they're very interested in trying to diversify some of the career offerings for not only their elementary, middle, and high school students, but college students as well. So that's one I've reached out to. Autumn, as I mentioned before, is another one through the tech transfer offices, have a lot of connections with postdocs, have some interns in their offices. Black Women Science and Engineering was another one that I was planning on reaching out to. And again, Carlyn, that might be one that we can work together on. So I think, reaching out, like I said, I've reached out to 2 of them so far, and there's definitely interest. And so I think the struggle that I run into, like with my Patent Academy and other things, is when you schedule these things, sometimes they will get better offers. So you might have, 20 people sign up, but only get half. So that's going to be an interesting situation to deal with. But and then the other is just trying to get a diverse group of speakers, a diverse group of women. And that I'm really not as concerned about, because I think women, just generally women, like even for this think tank, will step up. So that I'm not overly concerned about. It's just getting the participants in the program from these various colleges. That's my biggest concern. And then, like I said, I have a 1-page handout that's pretty much done that we would give to them and make available to them so they could think about and see visually kind of what their options are with respect to careers in patent law. And the way I've got the webinar constructed is I've got the slides done, the questions already set for the speakers, so it'd be really easy for them. We just need to plug in their bio information. So it really wouldn't take much heavy lifting for the speaker at all. So that's kind of where my program's at in terms of development.
And Lisa, do you plan to have, after the webinar, any way to keep people engaged, or maybe offering a list of signups for either your academy or the Harrity Academy, et cetera? Do you plan to have you said you're going to hand a flyer. Would it include different options for them for support?
Absolutely, yeah. Various resources that if they wanted to get some training on patent law, they could go to the Harrity Academy, they could, USPTO, that there would be a number of options listed. So it wouldn't be, just kind of one and done type of thing. If they really were interested, they would have other avenues and resources potentially available to them.
And Lisa, you had mentioned, I think you said this earlier, that you were recruiting women in the field who would like to be on the panels. So are there any other opportunities that you want to pitch for your programs? Each of you, is there people that you're looking for that can help support you?
I would love to have women outside the life sciences, because again, I know a lot of people in the life science field, so I don't want these panels to these webinars to be heavily life science based. So I would love if anybody has some suggestion of women outside of life sciences. And I know there's a lot of them. Elaine, for you, for example, is a good one. We had several people from the USPTO who helped myself, Meredith, and Carlyn out. I see Molly's one of the participants from the USPTO, the Rocky Mountain region. So any suggestions anybody has of potential speakers, I would really appreciate receiving them.
That's great. Okay, so if someone in the audience wants to start a program to bring diverse people and women into the patent field, what would you recommend? I can start. Firm backing. Get your firm backing.
Absolutely, that's key. And I think, Elaine, you are a great resource for anybody who is looking to start a program. You've been involved in so many of these, and Harrity has so many different programs. I mean, you guys have built them from the ground up. My recommendation would be to reach out to you or to John, because I think you guys have done a great job figuring out what works and done a lot of testing. So that would be my recommendation.
I would say too, like thinking about who do you know, like back to your point you were just making with Lisa, who do you know, and like how can you make it not too easy, because it's not easy, but like not impossible, like don't bite off so much, but also have like a dream for something bigger. John joined our group at one of the brainstorming sessions, and he was like thinking about like he encouraged us like think about the metrics to measure the success of the program, but also like think really big. Like you can start small, but think big. So I appreciated that advice when we were brainstorming.
I was going to add with it like that. I think that, yes, think, dream big, but also like, don't set that up as like your first goal, like starting with something that is, because there are kinks, particularly if you're trying to reach out to college students, I would say. But I mean, whatever it is, there is, it's an unsolicited cold email if you don't have a connection. So if you do have a way to do something that you can trial with somebody that you know in your network, think about that as kind of a first step, because once you have it, it will then also be a lot easier to say, well, and I've done this at such and such place, right? And I think it will, people are more receptive to that, or, maybe they know somebody. I mean, you could, if you were talking to a school and then say, well, who do you know at other schools? Having that, I would say that somebody vouching for you.
That's great. I'm going to read what John has in the chat. Have a clear goal, not too broad, and stay focused on that goal. Have metrics to determine whether the program is succeeding. Recruit others within and outside your organization to help. And I'll comment on that one. And I know, Lisa, you're part of our Patent Pathways program. To make a difference and have that program run and to scale it, we can't do it just at Harrity. So we've been recruiting members outside of our firm to work on the subcommittee to get it moving as we ramp our program from 20 Patent Pathway participants to 50. And so that's, more than double. And we need more people to help support. So recruiting people from outside, and that's Meredith, what I said, like maybe mentors can come from outside, or planning if you want to scale it, et cetera. That's a great way to bring the patent community in to help with the lifting. So I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, and also like WIT, like Women in Technology, that organization, we had done a career day thing with them through CHIPS a couple years ago, during the pandemic. I don't know when, but that could be like a good resource too. Trying to figure out like contacts, like they were pretty well connected with the different schools.
Yeah, I think sharing that information is helpful because sometimes we're trying to find out who we can reach out to. And if, you know, if Lisa, you have contacts at Autumn, or you all have contacts at somewhere else, we can share those and hopefully during our outreach to bring more participants involved in the program. Another comment in the Q&A is most importantly, it's okay to fail. And I think we're learning that. We've had to pivot so many times in our programs because we have it planned out in our head, we have it on paper, we start it, and I'm like, whoa, we didn't expect that. And then we have to pivot. So, you know, obviously you have to try and you have to fail and you learn from that and you improve. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to be a part of this program and getting your firm behind you to start implementing this as well. I think it makes a huge difference in our field to show that you guys are actually doing the good work in helping diversify the patent bar. We have a few more minutes if there's any questions from anyone about any of the programs or how to get involved. Well, I think that's it. Again, I want to thank the three of you and your firms for participating. I really can't wait to see what the programs look like. And to those of you who are joining us today and you're interested in starting your own diversity program or interested in being part of our think tank, please reach out to me. I'm happy to find a place for you to help all of us together to help actually make a difference with respect to diversifying the patent bar. So thank you guys so much. Thank you all for attending. I hope this was helpful, and happy Women's History Month, everyone.
Thanks, Elaine and
Thanks,
Samantha,
everyone.
for organizing.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining.